Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5th installment of the Sports Misfits. I'm your host, Michael Asiffo, and my co-host, Anika Kutiang, is not here. But don't worry about it. He'll be back. He's always back. He loves the show. He loves you fans. He loves the interaction. And we're going to get to all the sports topics of the week. But first, I have to plug the show. If you'd like to catch the Sports Misfits, you can do it a number of ways. You can catch us on SoundCloud with the handle The Sports Misfits. You can get that at the search bar or just type in soundcloud.com/The Sports Misfits. You can catch us on Twitter at Sports Misfits, all one word, all lowercase. You can also catch us on iTunes with the search bar The Sports Misfits. I don't think it really matters with The Sports Misfits or Sports Misfits, but just to be safe, add the in there. You can catch me at Michael Asiffo, all one word, all lowercase, on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can catch Anik Nakutiang on Twitter at Neek the Dream. You can catch Fan Eye Sports. That's the company that we work for. Fan Eye Sports, all one word, all lowercase, under their Twitter and Instagram, and Fan-Eye Sports is their Facebook. The website is back up, and I recently just posted an article on Conor McGregor. And speaking of Conor McGregor, let's get it out of the way. Let's talk about it. UFC 205. What happened? Well, let's first talk about the co-main event, the show that went on second last, Woolley versus Thompson. This was, in my opinion, fight of the night. This was a fight, and Woolley and Thompson really put it out there. But I want to talk about the decision and sometimes the flaws of MMA and MMA judging. So, two judges scored a draw. It was very close. And so two judges gave it a draw, 47-47. One judge had the gall to give Woolley the victory. I agree with that victory sentiment. I think Woolley won 3 rounds to 2. But whatever the case is whatever the case. Woolley scored 48-47. Woolley, one judge, two judges go 47-47. Bruce Buffer goes in there and says, 47-47, and one judge goes 47-48. Your winner by, I guess, split, draw, whatever you would like to call it, is Woolley. Then he pulls a Steve Harvey, Miss Universe, and says, there's been a mistake. It's a majority draw. I've never seen that before in all my years of MMA. I've seen one draw, which was Tito Ortiz versus Forrest Griffin. That was because a point was taken away and things happen. I saw one draw. And I think it raises a big question. What do you do when there's a majority draw? Do you give it a majority draw? Or does the person who had that one judge give them the favor? Do you give them the W? And in my opinion, Woolley should have gotten the W. I don't see why people are so content with this. If he was able to sway one judge's opinion, and to be honest, I think Woolley won the fight as well, do you give those two judges the say-so? And I get the idea of majority always wins, but it's not like a split decision. It's not like Thompson had 2 and Woolley had 1. It wasn't one of those. It's this, in the case of this should be a definitive winner kind of thing. If one judge gives it to Woolley and 2 draw, Woolley should get the victory because Thompson didn't get anyone in his favor, and therefore it shouldn't be a draw. Now I can see this happening. In this scenario, this is when it becomes a draw. One judge says Thompson, one judge says Woolley, one judge says draw. I get the point. I get everyone's sentiment, and you have to go with a draw because that's a completely different area. That's a completely different set of standards and set of syntax that I understand. But when 2 give it a draw and 1 give it to Woolley, it's not like Thompson got any favor. Thompson did not sway any judge, and therefore Woolley should have won. That's just my opinion. Now, let's talk about the main event. And Alvarez basically got destroyed. It was a slaughtering. It was a dominating performance by Conor McGregor. Alvarez had no answer for that left hand. And that combination to knock out Alvarez was just so accurate. There is disputes about whether the finish was a little too early because Alvarez was fighting back. However, when you're getting dropped so much, the ref has to protect you from yourself. And I think Big John made the right decision. It wasn't like a Mendez thing where Mendez was intelligently fighting back and then McGregor kind of squeaked out the victory there. I don't think it was one of those. I think McGregor was clearly getting dominated, and Big John had to protect Alvarez from himself. So now McGregor, first man in UFC history to hold 2 belts simultaneously. I honestly thought when they said that, I was like, well, what about Randy Couture? And then they put up the graphic that Randy was one of 3 men to hold 2 belts in 2 different weight classes. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. The other, believe it or not, is BJ Penn. I know. I'm very conflicted here because I'm very happy for Conor McGregor. I believe that Conor McGregor is a generational talent. I truly believe that Conor McGregor is up there in the UFC Hall of Fame as one of the greatest fighters of all time. He cemented his legacy. However, there's the issue of the featherweight title. And Aldo is the second best fighter in that division right now. Conor McGregor, in the 3 fights he's fought since winning that featherweight championship, has yet to defend that featherweight title. And I think Dana White and company are doing Jose Aldo a disservice by not giving him a title shot. I think that it's been a year. I think that Aldo was under the impression that if he beat Frankie Edgar for the interim title, that he would definitely get a title shot. So unless McGregor is dropping the title, which McGregor made very clear he will not drop the title, then I think Aldo deserves the next crack at Conor McGregor. This is what he deserves. I think a lot of people are getting too greedy for their stomachs. I think a lot of people are not understanding how, championship title defenses work. When you win a title, you have to defend the title. And Conor McGregor, in his 3 fights since winning that featherweight championship, has not defended the title. And it's diluting the championship. It's diluting the featherweight division. That 145 division looks very, 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 very unimportant and minuscule right now. And that in turn ruins the business of the UFC when it comes to that featherweight division, and in turn ruins the featherweight division in all of MMA. My point is that when Conor McGregor and Aldo fight, will Aldo be the favorite? No, Aldo will be the underdog going into that fight. However, you have to defend the title once you win the title. And I think it's time that we as MMA purists and we as MMA fans go to Dana White and say, listen, he has to defend his title. No more talk about these super fights with Woolley or a trilogy fight with Diaz. If Diaz does get a fight, it's going to be for the lightweight championship, not as a third trilogy fight, super fight. And by the way, side note, Diaz shouldn't get the next lightweight championship title shot. Khabib Nurmagomedov should. Khabib deserves it. But that's another story for another time. As presently constructed, Aldo should get the next title shot for the featherweight championship. And if he doesn't, and if McGregor's not interested in fighting Aldo, then drop the belt. It was great. You won 2 at the same time. No one's ever going to take that away from you. But if McGregor's not fighting Aldo, I don't want to see him with the championship, because that's just not proper way to do stuff in the world of MMA. And to me, in MMA, when you win a championship, you defend your championship. It's been a year. That featherweight title and that featherweight division is being diluted to the absolute max, and it's shameful to watch considering the fact that Aldo, for 6 years, was on top of the world as champ, probably one of the more dominant champions of UFC's history. But again, that's just me, and you know what? Congratulations to Conor McGregor, because it's history. He's the only man to do that. He's in exclusive company with Randy Couture, aka Captain America, and I mean, say what you will about BJ Penn, but BJ Penn, when he had those two, when he won both the lightweight and the welterweight championships, he was one of the greatest fighters of all time. He's one of the greatest fighters of our generation. Now it looks kind of sad because he's getting destroyed all the time and he's retired, and when he's trying to come back, it's like everyone's like, give it a rest. I get it, but in his prime, BJ Penn was one of the more dominant fighters of our generation. So he's in that company with 2 legends, 2 absolute legends of the sport. But you gotta defend your title, and I don't think people are realizing that aspect of it. You have to defend your title. Like, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You have to defend your title. Any questions? Good. Now let's shift focus from the world of the MMA to the world of the basketball, the NBA. I think it's appropriate to talk about the Raptors. They've lost 2 straight to both teams that have made the NBA Finals in the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors, and they've played them pretty tough. The Raptors go into Cleveland, have the lead, and then have it taken away from them. Then they go and, on a back-to-back, by the way, host the Golden State Warriors, to which it was a shootout. Both games were well over the hundreds. The Cleveland Cavaliers game, 115 to 121 was the result there. The Golden State Warriors game, 127 to 121 was the result there. Individually, DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, they are in form, in mid-season shape. DeMar DeRozan, obviously, is the talk of the NBA right now, averaging 33.3 points a game. He is filling the cup right now, and you know what? He's doing it without even shooting many threes. It's the mid-range, and this is for all the analytics people and all the so-called experts who say the mid-range is ineffective, you don't need mid-range jump shots, it's the three or the dunk. DeMar DeRozan is proving to people why that is a load of crap. He is proving to people why that makes no absolute sense, and if you got a sweet jumper, use it. With ineffective, and I say that with quotes, with ineffective shots, he leads the league in scoring, and the Raptors are having a good season. They're on pace to have a good season again. Here's the deal. When are people going to talk about the Raptors' defense? They are not playing well defensively, not even a little bit. And I think that if you are a Toronto Raptors fan and you remember what happened against Washington, then you will be very, very, very worried about what this team is doing right now, because you know that offensively, this is just not sustainable, and they need some better defense. They need to play better defense. And I think that when Bismack Biyombo left, that was a sign that you were going to miss Bismack Biyombo, because defensively, what Bismack could bring for you, and what he proved last year, is that defensively, he makes your team 10 points better. And now that the Raptors don't have that, they are about 10 points worse on defense. Pascal Siakam, great energy guy. He's not the defender Bismack Biyombo was. Jakob Poeltl, great defender too, but again, he's not the defender Bismack Biyombo was. And Jakob Poeltl, I have to say, I'm very impressed with his basketball IQ. He just seems to be in the right place at the right time. He's got good basketball instincts. Here's my issue. The Raptors offensively look much, much better. They look much more sound. But A, they're not passing the ball like I thought they would coming into this season, especially in the preseason. They look like they were trying out a new style where they were passing the ball a lot more. But, I mean, when DeMar DeRozan's high, and DeMar DeRozan's an isolation player, it is what it is. But B, and more importantly, defensively, they are not playing up to snuff. And I think this needs to be said. If you are a Toronto Raptors fan, you will remember what that season 2 years ago was like when the Raptors went to go face the Washington Wizards and got swept. Offensively, they were great for the first half of the year. Then they took a hit offensively, and defensively, they were still bad. And they just went on a big-time slump. They were not a good second-half team, and when they faced Washington, they got swept. If you do not want your Raptors to be like this season around, you must ask the tough questions, even when the Raptors are winning. And that tough question is, what's up with the defense? But the point is this, and I think that it's time not to panic right now because it is early, and their 3 losses have been against the teams that went to the finals. They lost twice to Cleveland and once to the Golden State Warriors. So it's not like they're playing horribly, but defensively, there's tough questions that needs to be asked. Anyway, let's shift focus to the world of the hockey. And I think that it's appropriate to stick on Toronto, and since the Toronto Raptors, a bit of a tough back-to-back against really good teams, by the way. The Leafs are coming off of a bit of an emotional high, basically knocking James Reimer out of the game, their former Leafs goaltender, and beating Florida 6-1. Mitch Marner had a really nice goal. Connor Brown had a really great night. Anderson was stopping everything in sight, except for that one shot, obviously. But this is a question that someone asked me. What's best for the Leafs? Do you want the Leafs to win this year, or would you like the Leafs to pull it back a little bit, tank, and get like a good first-round prospect? I think, for me, I would like for them to to get a solid defenseman. And I think the reason is this. Morgan Riley, he's good. Jake Gardiner, he's all right. I like what Matt Hunwick does, but is he a NHL premier defenseman? No, he's okay. Like, good energy guy, he'll block shots, but he's okay. That's what Matt Hunwick is. He's an okay third to fourth line defenseman on a good team. They need a defenseman. And listen, the fact is this. A lot of their defensemen at the positions they are do not cut it as currently constituted. I think Morgan Riley will be a number one defenseman. I think Jake Gardiner is pretty good. I think he's a good third, fourth defenseman. I think that Matt Hunwick is a great energy guy. He will block shots for you, and I think that he deserves to be in the NHL. Don't get me wrong. But they need a 2, they need a 4, they need good defensive prospects. And I think that the only way to get that is through the draft, at least so far. The only way to get that with the salary cap as currently constituted is through a draft. And if you want the Leafs to get that defenseman and be Stanley Cup contenders, I would say that you would want the Leafs to tank. However, tanking only happens in the boardroom. Tanking only happens with management. Tanking does not happen with the players. You think these players want to lose hockey games? You think Nazem Kadri wants to lose hockey games? By the way, shout out to Nazem Kadri because he's playing well. He's a very good shutdown player. It's weird. He's not necessarily scoring a lot, but Nazem Kadri is relishing that role of, I'm the guy who's going to shut down your best player. I'm going to mark him, and I'm really going to shut him down. I'm going to be annoying. He did it to McDavid. He attempted to do it with Crosby. He's been doing it with a lot of these players so far. And I really like it when, I think Nazem Kadri's at his best when he's being annoying. I think he's his best when he's a pest. There's a reason why a lot of players don't like Nazem Kadri. I mean, that Daniel Sedin hit, it was clean. Don't get me wrong. We all saw it. It was clean. But that pissed a lot of people off because that's how he plays. And I think he's at his best when he's playing clean. But I think he's at his best when he's being a pest. And he's giving people good, clean hits. He's being annoying. And he's got no fear. And I shout out to Nazem Kadri because he's one of the reasons why the Leafs are doing better than expected. At the end of the day, what do I think? I don't think the Leafs will make the playoffs. But I don't want them to be in that 9th, 10th place area. I think that if the Leafs are not going to make the playoffs, go to 12th, go to like 13th. Don't do that business where you don't make the playoffs, but you're in 9th, 10th place. If you are going to make the playoffs, I'm okay with 8th, 7th, because very rarely do Leaf fans get something to cheer about. Very rarely. There was the Sundin years. Wendell Clark is a guy who comes up to mind. But very rarely do the Leafs fans and the Leaf faithful get something to cheer about, and it'd be nice. I know that analytically, you probably want the Leafs to tank and get a defenseman, but if they do make the playoffs, it's nice. And I think that's a lot of things that people don't realize. There's this emergence of the smart fan, and don't get me wrong, I'm technically a smart fan as well. You're allowed to be a smart fan, but there's this emergence of the smart fan. And I think one of the drawbacks of this emergence of the smart fan is that fans just don't know how to enjoy a good team anymore. You know, like the Raptors, for example. We just talked about how, DeMar DeRozan is playing really well. They've only lost to championship contenders and teams that went to the finals. But I'm sitting here talking about defense and how negative I am about the Raptors. And you're talking about the Leafs here, and you're talking about how they need a defenseman and they should tank, and I can't believe they're in the playoffs. Stop it. Just enjoy it. Let them try. I don't think they're going to make it, but they're human beings, and if they want to strive for the best, go strive for the best. Go win a championship. Maybe that's a little too far. Go to the playoffs. And I think this emergence of smart fan understands that they need a defenseman. I'm not stupid. We need a defenseman. You know, defensively they're not great, and they play with a lot of grit, but it's still not there. And Frederik Andersen, as well as he's playing so far, he was shaky to begin the season, but He's playing well now. As well as he's playing, I don't think he's a goaltender of the future. But if they want to go try and attempt to make the playoffs in only the first year, second year of the rebuild, depending on what you think of last year, if they want to try and make the playoffs, if they want to go for it all, that's what hockey players are supposed to do. And not just hockey players, athletes. That's what athletes. You know what? Not take out athletes from it. That's what men with pride do. They try to be the best they can be. Men and people with pride. Just people with pride try to do that. They try to be the best they can be. And if they can be the best they can be, let them go make the playoffs. Don't be like, oh, I can't believe they're so close. Oh my goodness, nope. Tank. Just let them go make the playoffs. Anyway, that's it about the Leafs, I think. Oh, one last final point. Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and Austin Matthews. That tandem of three, just bravo. These guys are, wow. Like, it used to be a thing that back in the day, when you get in as a rookie, you have to pay your dues. You play like that 5 minutes of ice time. You learn, you grow your game, and then you're good by year 3 or 4. Nowadays, in every sport too, it seems like this. Everyone is so pro sport ready. Maybe not so in the NFL, but in the NBA and NHL especially. A kid comes in and they're 19 years old. Like, for example, Connor McDavid. And, I mean, there's only one Connor McDavid. Let's be honest with each other. But Connor McDavid comes in at 19, and he's already tearing up the league. Kyrie Irving came in his first year. He was already setting the NBA on fire. It's so weird nowadays. Think about how long it took Steve Nash to develop. Future Hall of Famer Steve Nash. Think about how long it took him to develop. And now look at the NBA stars of today who, they come in for 2 years and they're already all-stars. Like Karl Anthony Towns, if his team has a winning record by January, he's probably making the all-star team. It's amazing to see. But anyway, back to the tandem of three. They're playing out of their minds right now. And I think they're one of the reasons why the Leafs are so close to a playoff spot. Now, I think I'm done on the Leafs. Let's shift focus to the world of the NFL. The NFL, there's some stories there. And I think I want to save the Kuechly stuff for last because there's an interesting discussion on that. And I wish Anikin was here and I wish we could talk about that because the concussions and stuff like that. But let's first talk about the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, that was pretty cool. And, what a victory. Going toe-to-toe with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in trouble. 4-5. But let's call the victory for what it is. Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, this combination, they're killing everything. 8-1. Their only loss was in week 1. They are on a tear, an absolute tear. Ezekiel Elliott, forget rookie of the year, forget any of that. He might win an MVP. Forget rookie of the year. Ezekiel Elliott for rookie of the year. Of course he's going to win rookie of the year. If he keeps playing like this, he's going to be an MVP. Like, let's take a look at the stats here. Ezekiel Elliott, 21 rushes, 114 yards, 2 touchdown runs, and 5.4 yards a carry. Dak Prescott, unbelievable, 319 yards and 2 pass TDs with no interceptions. Dak Prescott has a overall QB rating of 106.2. 106.2. Wow. Absolutely wow. I am just wowed by the Dallas Cowboys. And we had this, Anikin deserves his due because we had this conversation. Dak Prescott, is he real? We had the conversation. I obviously took the cop-out answer of, I don't know. He took the grandstand of, yes, he is. And, through week 10 right now, and Dak Prescott looks real. He looks ready. He is real. And and Ezekiel Elliott, he leads the league in rushing. He's a rookie. And he leads the league in rushing, and he leads it by 75 yards. So all of this, and oh, by the way, number 2 is DeMarco Murray. So after DeMarco Murray had that terrible year with Philly, he seems like he's doing all right now. But wow, wow, the Dallas Cowboys are playing amazing. And offensively, like I said, I said it like this. Jason Garrett what he's doing with Dak Prescott is every week he like lets him in on a new style of the playbook. I don't know how else to describe it, but the first week it was the Dak and dunk. The second week it was like Dak and dunk, but if you want to do a play action, here you go. And then the third week was like, well, add an option. Fourth week was like, okay, go deep if you want. And then now it's starting to, it was like what I compare it to is, remember Karate Kid? Remember Mr. Miyagi and Daniel? And then it was like, all Daniel was doing for the first little while was wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. And then he starts to block. Then he learns balance. And then he's punching. That's what I compare it to. That's what they're doing with Dak Prescott. And it's worked wonders. Out of a crappy situation of Tony Romo hurting his shoulder, they have eased Dak Prescott into the system and allowed Dak Prescott to flourish in their system. And it's pretty cool to see. Now, let's talk about another topic before we get to Luke Kuechly. And I think, and by the way, Green Bay Packers, we talked about DeMarco Murray and the Tennessee Titans. Green Bay Packers, I know Aaron Rodgers is giving Mike McCarthy the vote of confidence, but the end, if the Green Bay Packers don't get their act together, the end will be near for Mike McCarthy. I'm going to tell you straight up, because Green Bay and not making the playoffs is usually a death sentence. But let's shift focus to Jared Goff, and he is finally going to get his shot. I think the hilarious scoreline of 9-6 was the last straw for the Rams coaching staff, Jeff Fisher. I think they've seen enough out of Goff in practice to think that he's got it, he can do this. And the one thing about the Rams is that they've underperformed this season, in my opinion. I think defensively they've been great, but offensively, they can't move the ball to save their lives. They wouldn't know a first down marker even if it hit it in the face, because they never get a first down, ever. It's ridiculous. Obviously, I'm being facetious, but the Rams, they need an offensive spark if they hope to make the playoffs. And I think that putting Goff in there is a good move, because what's the worst that happens? He does bad. Well, guess what? Keenum was doing bad too. So, what's the worst that can happen? If he goes in there and falls on his face, he goes in there and falls flat on his face. But what if he provides a spark and they beat teams 23-7, like they can beat teams 23-7, because that defense is being wasted, absolutely wasted. So I'm kind of excited to see this Sunday. Go watch as the Rams may or may not score 20 plus points. I don't know. You never know what can happen in the world of the NFL. Jared Goff could come in there and just absolutely light it up for the final 6 weeks of the NFL. Well, technically it's final 8, but whatever. Now let's talk about the seriousness, and obviously concussions and the NFL is a big issue. And recently, yesterday, in fact, Luke Kuechly, very disturbing hit, and gets treated for a possible concussion. And as he's being treated, one of the more emotional sights is seeing all his teammates, well, most of his teammates, I don't know, but a very large amount of his teammates gathered around him and sent him their thoughts and wishes verbally, to which Luke Kuechly cried, just bawled. And I don't know, there's two ways I want to go with this here. That shows the camaraderie of football. I like to say, for better or for worse, that's obviously for better. But Luke Kuechly and that camaraderie there, that's football right there. You're a family. And from, the Pee-wee levels to high school to college to now, even though everybody makes lots of money and some make more money than others, at times, you still see that family-like atmosphere rear its head from time to time, and it's cool to watch. It's really cool to watch. That's one way I could go with it. The other way I could go with it is the NFL really needs to do something about the concussion issue. They really need to, because the fact is that the numbers of players in the lower levels of football is dropping, and it's largely due to concussions. And as of right now, as it presently constituted, the NFL, despite all the rule changes, has still not been able to, at least perception-wise, diminish the chance of concussions in the NFL. And with more and more research, mounting, you would tend to see that the NFL and Luke Kuechly as one of their stars are worried about their perception when Luke Kuechly is crying about missing games because of his concussion. It's not a good look, man. And I love football. I love watching football. I have continued to watch football. For a while, I was writing about football weekly. So I love football. This isn't one of those outside perspectives who says bad football and yada, yada, yada. This isn't one of those. I'm not going to be one of those people. I truly believe that football has a place in our world because football is tradition. It's been around forever. And from NFL films, I always loved those America Games tapes. Even the ones where it's the almost winners tapes, those ones where they all the finalists. But the point I'm trying to make is it's not a good look. And when Luke Kuechly, a star Pro Bowler linebacker, is going down with a concussion and is crying, it's not a good look. It's just not a good look. Okay, a quick news thing, a news bulletin thing. The NCAA football rankings. Louisville's standings, I think the Sports Misfits People's Champions, Louisville, their ranking still at the top 4. Yeah. Lamar Jackson's the truth. Heisman winner in my eyes. They're still 5th, despite the fact that Michigan State has lost and Clemson lost. Just one of those teams, please lose again. Please Clemson lose again so that we can see Lamar Jackson in a playoff, because that would be fun. Sorry, it's just true. Anyway, guys, we're going to take the break. When we come back, we're going to get into the Fan Eye Rundown. Welcome back to the Sports Misfits. I'm your host, Michael Asiffo. My co-host, my partner in crime, Meekin, is not here like we said off the top. But don't worry, it's going to be okay because I have the Fan Eye Rundown stuff, questions, stuff, thingies here. So it's going to be fine. I have the questions and we're going to get into the Fan Eye Rundown. In respect to our former name, the Fan Eye Experience, we've kept the name. This is really getting long-winded. Anyway, just get to the rundown. All right, question number 1. Do you care about Alshon Jeffrey's suspension? What? What? No. Okay, so obviously the Chicago Bears star receiver, Alshon Jeffries, had a PED infraction, which means he was suspended for 4 games. No. Okay, first off, the Bears are 2-7. They're almost as bad as the Cleveland Browns. The Bears are a disaster. It's a mess there, and doesn't really mean much. And I think this is the issue, is that the substance abuse stuff, I think, is pretty good. I think their system is not bad. It's not the NBA where you don't catch nobody. And, I mean, with the NBA, it's kind of one of those things of, are people not taking stuff, or is there really something going on, but the NBA doesn't test well? And with the NHL, you can ask the same thing. I don't know. I have my own theories about it, but I don't know. It's not that, but it's not necessarily MLB where your best player gets caught like this, and it's just a snap of a finger. Your best player on your best team can get caught, and thus making your team garbage. A lot of times when you see the PED stuff, especially, it's players that are A, not very good, or B, are good on bad teams. And this is another example. Alshon Jeffrey is good, but he's on a bad team. So it's not like this whole hoopla, right? It's not like MLB where suddenly A-Rod can get busted for steroids and suspended for 2 to 3 years. And it's not like Chris Colabello, who meant a lot to the Blue Jays, can just get slammed with a PED infraction. It's not one of those. It's very, very, how do I explain this? It's very it's like a in the middle kind of thing. I'm not mad at it. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just that if you're asking me, do I care about the suspension? No, because it really doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things in the NFL. If like Tom Brady were to go down with something, that's completely different. Like I would care a lot. That means a lot about the NFL landscape and what's going on right now. Speaking of Tom Brady, the next question concerns him. Did you see the Tom Brady Foot Locker commercial? I have. I actually have. It's pretty funny. I think it's much ado about nothing, but I think the big question is, and he's definitely talking about Deflategate. It's obvious. Here's the thing about Deflategate, and I think I should stress this. He probably deflated the balls. He did it. Like, he probably deflated the balls. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. He deflated the balls. Life happens. Now ask me the question, do you care and if that's bad? No, it's not bad. I don't care. In high school, teams can have different balls. Like, you can bring your own ball. And when your team was on offense, you can switch the balls out. This was a thing. In St. Joan of Arc, Wire AA, high school football, that was a thing. You could switch the balls. So like King City would bring their balls before destroying us by 50 to 20. And we can bring our ball to face a team and lose 20 to 50. You could switch the balls out on offense. And we did that because we believed our ball had a better feel, or our ball was nicer, or our ball was better. And they believed their ball was better. So I'm not seeing the issue because we've done it all the time. I think the issue comes to, are you intentionally trying to make yourself better? Is that like a performance thing? Really, does it matter? Like, it doesn't matter. It's a ball. It's not like he's taking PEDs. It's a ball. It's a ball. He probably deflated the balls because that's how he likes how it feels. I remember our quarterback in high school, he liked when a ball was bigger. He liked throwing the bigger ball. And no, there's no innuendo to this. I'm just saying he liked throwing a ball that was bigger. So it doesn't matter. And so the fact that he's coming in here making fun of Deflategate, it's petty. It's petty. It's garbage. It's petty. I'm sorry. It's funny, but it's still petty. Like, if you really think about it, it's petty. But it's a pretty funny commercial, bro. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty funny. On to the next question. And that question is, oh, I like this one. You know what? I got asked this one. What does both Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion, both rejecting the qualifying offer, mean to you? Well, it's very complicated because if you ask me that and they didn't sign anybody, I would say nothing. You know, if you asked me that before Kendrys Morales, I would say nothing. But if you're asking me that now, I would say that one or both have probably played their last game when they lost to Cleveland. Because Kendrys Morales, he's not necessarily a replacement for both, but he's a very strong contingency plan. And the fact that they got him for $11 million, and I know the issues towards why you signed him for $11 million, was a fleecing. That was a fleecing. Because Kendrys Morales in this free agent class should have gotten 15 plus per year, because there's like nobody else. I don't want to say that it completely means that both of them are gone, because it doesn't. It really doesn't. No player in their right mind with the pedigree that both Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion have would take a qualifying offer. I mean, Jose Bautista, even with his season that he had, was still a 20-plus home run guy. And he barely played. So I think Jose Bautista knows that in his mind that if he does play, he's a 40 home run guy. Like, look at his on pace. His on pace was like 40 plus home runs, even though he was striking out a lot. And when he wasn't striking out, he was injured. So I don't think they would have taken it anyway. But I think that the Blue Jays themselves are ready to move on. And I think that if the question was, what does Kendrys Morales mean? I would say, yeah, that means one person's going. But if you're asking simply on the qualifying offers, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. None of these guys would take qualifying offer, especially with the year Edwin had. Nah. If I was his agent, I'd be like, don't take it. What are you doing? So that it is what it is. Last question, and it's more of a, I'm not going to lie to you, this one's more passion to my heart because we did have the Raptors 905 update for a little while on our show. We're probably going to bring that back in this incarnation. Raptors 905 starts tonight. What's the main story? I think the main story is that, for me at least, it's year 3 of the Bruno Caboclo experiment. It's year 3 to see if Bruno Caboclo really does have the juice. You know, if Bruno Caboclo really is going to be that player that Masai really thought he was going to be. I've been seeing his development, and it's pretty good. It's year 3 of year 4. So year 4 is when I'm expecting, like, to see a monster Bruno Caboclo. I think his handles are not that great. His shot is way better than I thought it would, and defensively, he's really good. Like, so I think that if his handles were to get better, then you would see Bruno Caboclo be really, really prime for an NBA roster spot. And I think that the main story is to see Bruno Caboclo's development throughout this season as part of the Raptors 905. You won't really see it defensively, though, because of the D-League obviously being such an up-and-down league. It's very offensive or offense-oriented. But as I've said before, and I've said it many times, no matter what league you're in, defense wins you championships. It doesn't matter if you're in an offensive league, a defensive league. The best defensive team usually wins that league. Sorry, it's true. So, yeah. Anyway, main story for Raptors 905 this season. Their season starts tonight, Friday, 7:30. Main story is obviously Bruno Caboclo and his development as a Raptor. Anyway, guys, that's it for the rundown. Let's get to corrections and clarifications. Okay, so you probably noticed I said Keely a lot. It's Keekly, obviously. Listen, my speech sucks. I'm not a very good talker. I don't even know why I have this show, to be honest. I can't speak. I stutter all the time. Leave me alone. Get off my back. But in all seriousness, yeah, Keekly is how you say it. Raptors 905 season. Again, it's a sent-in question. I have to stress this. If you guys are going to make questions and you're going to send it to us via DM or such, or, I mean, a lot of times I do get questions when I'm riding the bus, and I don't do that much often, but when I do ride the bus, people ask me questions, or when I go out to eat, people ask me questions. That's a different story altogether, because I can piece together and then write it grammatically correct. But if you're going to send me a question via email or Twitter, please have it grammatically correct, because that Raptors 905 question, it was very parsed, and I'm not singling out who sent it, but it's very parsed, and I had to kind of maneuver it. But thank you for sending in the question, because I really liked the question. When I got past it and I deciphered the code. But in all seriousness, everybody have a great weekend. We're going to be back next week. Hopefully Nikan's going to be on the show, and we're going to get right back into it. Peace.